Submarines are very much not okay in World of Warships. So, how would one fix them? In this episode, I'm gonna be doing a lot of hypothetical talking about how I would love submarines to be seen in this game to make them both entertaining for the surface ship players as for the submarine players. The main goal would be to make them much less annoying to deal with, but much more exciting to play. What topics would I cover? First, I'm gonna go over the armament of the submarines, then about the spotting mechanic of the submarines, and then the durability and how we should actually be able to fight them back, and I'm gonna mention some extras as well. So, what armament changes would I want to see? First of all, I would want to get rid of the super amazingly annoying and cancerous homing torpedoes, reducing them basically to fighting another submarines under the water. We can get rid of the shotgunning on the homing torpedoes as well with that, since, well, shotgunning another submarine when you cannot do it to the surface ships would be just fine. The homing torpedoes would basically be locked while on periscope depth and on the surface. Pretty simple. Just reverse the code for what we have right now for the normal torps. So what about the submarines that have exclusively homing torps? Well, I would want to receive torpedoes similar to Hans, making them much faster, or basically this going with the same speed the homing torps of them are doing right now, but doing much less damage. Would still make them more consistent than normal submarines, while not making them incredibly annoying to deal with by, well, I'm gonna ping you and the torp is gonna do a 90-degree turn around an island and hit you anyway. Right? That's not fun to deal with whatsoever. On top of that, I would want to have a little bit of test for submarine dropping mines. I know, a little bit controversial, but hear me out. The submarines that currently have exclusively homing torpedoes would receive mines to lay down in a straight line behind them, making something of a trail. That would allow destroyers to find them much more easy, while giving submarines some way of dealing more damage. Basically, reverse SFW. Those mines would take a long time to prepare, so they cannot really drop it when destroyer is chasing them, because they would basically just not arm, while giving them some way of dealing much harder damage than the weak torpedoes. Also, it would be much more balanced way of actually introducing mines to the game, since there's not gonna be tons of them, they're not gonna lock down a specific area, and they're still gonna be destructible for SAW. Leaving 12 mines in a line rather than like 100 in a circle is big of a difference, isn't it? So how would we actually find submarines knowing that pings are gone? So let's go over the spotting mechanic I would love to be introduced to World of Warships for submarines. Submarines need to take a little bit of a risk while approaching you. Normal torpedo boats take that risk by being on the surface at all times, since, well, they are surface ships, right? So they risk being radared, they risk being hydroed, they risk being found by other destroyers or aircraft, while submarines can just go underwater, right? Well, I want submarines to risk being fast near you underwater. They need to make ambushes. How I would want to make 7 kilometers around your ship should be an area where you can detect moving submarines. And I mean moving submarines under the water. If they're on the surface, they work just like surface ships. If they're on periscope depth or lower, there should be a delayed ping-like silhouette being shown. And I say it would be something similar to what War Thunder had back in the day when we had the event for submarines. Basically, on intervals you would see silhouette around where the submarine was near you. That silhouette would be more accurately shown the faster the submarine is moving and the closer it is to you. The spotting of submarines using using consumables such as hydro, radar, or the ASFW one should not be really changed. However, within the 5 km, 6 km hydro of yours, the intervals between the silhouette being shown while the submarine obviously is not detected, so it's not 2 kilometers or closer to your hydro, should be greatly increased. Those silhouettes won't show submarine on the map, and you won't be able to see silhouettes spotted for your allies when you're too far away. So let's just say that the range is 7 kilometers, ally is spotting submarine with the silhouette, basically he has the silhouette being shown, and you're like 20 kilometers away, you shouldn't be able to see it. But if you're like, for example, 10 kilometers away, you should totally be able to see it. Let's just reduce that range to your ASFW range. I think that will be just fair and balanced. Plus for destroyers it should be set to another 7 kilometers. There can be a lot of experiments about that, but I think that just thinking about that mechanic like this would make it much more exciting for submarines to actually fight you. I want to also point out that to make it a little bit more fair for the submarine player, it should also notify him that he's within that range when he's on the periscope depth or lower, not on the surface. Okay, so how we actually would fight submarines? So let's go over the ASFW. I want to introduce one very key mechanic, would be the maximum depth. Currently not really used apart from fighting submarine to submarine. I would want it to be a chance for submarine to escape invisibly. Hear me out. Maximum possible depth from tier 8 above should allow submarine to be immune and invisible to spotting apart from hydro at all times. But submarine shouldn't be able to sit on that depth for more than around 20 seconds. After which it would start taking incremental damage that within around 7 to 8 seconds should reduce it to 1 HP. Upon reaching 1 HP, submarine shouldn't be killed, it should be forced to surface. Player wouldn't be able to do a thing about that. That would make so that submarine can escape in narrow situations, but most of the time it would be just delaying the inevitable, since the first thing that will hit you would instantly kill you, you'll be on 1 HP. To refill the bar of being on the maximum depth, submarine basically needs to surface and refill it just the same as the air. Another one is about the depth charges. I want the depth charges to deal less damage if they explode above the submarine, but increase damage if they drop below it. So on periscope depth, and on the surface, submarine should take the most damage from SFW, while on the maximum depth it should take much less. Combine that with the fact that it cannot hurt you on maximum depth will lead to many situations when it basically has to exchange spotting and damage for living a little bit longer. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the submarine's consumables, and specifically about the German one. Since I proposed so many changes to submarine's durability and staying underwater, the German consumable giving submarine extra 30 seconds underwater would consider to be a little bit broken. I would want it to be replaced with something that German submarines actually had, which is I think what was called the snorkel, which would basically be a consumable that would allow submarine to recharge air while on periscope depth, instead of just giving it extra air. That way submarine still risks a bit, but gets something in exchange for consumable. And another thing, I want to address the U4501 cancer part, which would be its speed. The easiest way to actually balance that particular submarine, even without getting any other changes from this video that I presented, would be simply to reduce its speed underwater, but give the submarine basically what is a Ragnar engine boost, or even a Regolo's engine boost, which would make it so that it would give it the same speed that it has right now at all times, being just something that it has for the use of the consumable, around, for example, 30 seconds. It would make it so it's a conscious choice for the submarine player to use that boost and escape, rather than just being it at all times. Again, it required a little bit more skill than it is right now, even though we all know how skill requirement for that particular submarine is right now. So to sum up, I would want to remove surface ships' struggle with the homing torps, give submarines a little bit of the ambush kind of part with being visible while moving underwater, but more invisible while being stationary and preparing for an assault, giving them also more burst damage with the normal torpedoes that will be much harder to hit but more rewarding. Also giving them some way of escaping in narrow situations that wouldn't make it too annoying to deal with. There's always a way to trade the things up. Obviously, this is just theoretical thinking, and I would love to hear your opinion about it. Also, most of those would require some testing to make sure that the things like ranges of spotting or detecting wouldn't be bugged or too long or too short. But it's still, I think, a better way of introducing submarines to this game than what we have right now. And I find my way to be much less annoying as well. Well, I hope you liked listening to my little bit of theoretical thinking. If you want another type of video on how to fix World of Warships, of specific class for example, say so in the comments as well. It's been Senpai Silent. See you next time. Signing out.